All right, we are officially recording. So welcome everyone to our monthly meetup with the Real Estate Financing and Crowdfunding Network. We are a community of people who are interested in real estate investment and the new area of real estate crowdfunding. We have educational and networking events, both online and in person. We are really here to help people build a professional circle within this area and to gain knowledge about financing, both traditional means of financing as well as alternative. Yeah, so that's about it about our meetup. We are always open to having other presenters. Next month we have a crowdfunding platform called Small Change. That's going to be an in-person meetup, but we're also going to have a web component if people want to join that way. And my name is Mallory Pettis. I'm one of the organizers along with Lou Steadwell and Elizabeth Gilhooly. I am the marketing manager for Chestnut Street Partners. And here with me today is Melanie Laporte, and she is our Director of Acquisitions. And she's going to be showing us some deals, some prospective deals. And Lou Steadwell, who is the CEO of Chestnut Street Partners, as well as the principal broker for Washington, D.C. Homes. He is the presenter tonight, and we're going to be talking about Chestnut Street Partners, what we do, and the opportunities to invest with us. So Lou has 30 years experience in the field as a real estate professional, has got his degree in urban planning from UC Berkeley. And tonight, without further ado, I'll pass it over to him to talk with us about the company, what we do, and how people can get involved if they want to.
Okay, thank you, Mallory.
You're welcome.
The title of tonight's presentation is Real Estate Investing for the Rest of Us. I'm Lou Steadwell, as Mallory said. I am the CEO of Chestnut Street Partners. And a couple of years ago, we heard about something that was coming down the pike, which was legislation to permit crowdfunding, that is, groups of people who did not necessarily previously know each other before, who were also not what are called accredited investors, to team up and come together and invest together in real estate without having to go through all of the SEC, Security and Exchange rules and regulations, which are very onerous. At that time, we decided to start a meetup website for the purpose of talking about crowdfunding and the potential for crowdfunding. So this presentation is to introduce you to us, our company, and to talk about the mechanism of crowdfunding and perhaps look at a couple of deals that are actual deals that could be prospects for crowdfunding, for the crowdfunding platform. I love houses, and I always have. In 2012, I decided, even though I had been licensed as a realtor since 1980, I decided that I wanted to form a company to do something with houses. And it started out with my daughter's house. She was having difficulty finding a loan to buy a house herself in our neighborhood. So we formed a company, and we decided that we would lend her the money and help her buy and fix it up. So when we did that, I kind of caught the bug of actually doing renovation. And so we started buying and fixing up houses and selling houses. And now we're eager to seek out new opportunities to collaborate with others to maybe do more than a single house at a time. Last year we did 4 houses independently. This year we've done 3, but we'd like to actually consider grouping, coming together with others to do larger scale projects, perhaps, or to do groups of houses, perhaps. So I wanted to introduce you to my company and talk a little bit about how we do what we do and invite you to actually join with us, to consider investing with us. So we can go on to the next slide. Our company is actually 3 companies. We have an investment company that actually finds houses and puts together the financing to fix them up. And the company, then we have another company, Partnership Ventures, which actually oversees the rehab once we've made a decision about a house, and we oversee the actual construction. We don't have crews of contractors, but we hire contractors. We have lists of contractors that we work with. And then there is the brokerage, which is Washington, D.C. Homes. And I'm the principal broker. And the brokerage buys and sells houses as a regular brokerage in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. We're licensed in all 3 jurisdictions. Now we have an office. We only have an office in Washington, D.C., but we have a presence, and potentially we will have an office in Northern Virginia and an office probably in Baltimore in Maryland. Our current focus is to fix and flip. We do standard brokerage. We represent sellers, people who just want to sell their house. As I said, I've had a lot of experience doing that. But we also are, as a company, our focus is to find distressed properties that we can fix, flip, and return to the market. Our business model is to, when we're looking to rehab a house, is to create a project. We build a team and a platform for us to collaborate. And our team would typically be comprised of a project manager. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's somebody else, somebody who steps up, somebody who wants to invest, somebody who wants to learn the rehab business. We have a training facility in which we train people to manage rehab projects, but sometimes we manage them ourselves. Sometimes we bring in a manager from outside or an investor who's had some experience in actually doing rehab come in and work with us in a collaborative way. We buy the houses at a discount. One of the things that Melanie does is she spends a lot of time going through the foreclosure lists and the bank-owned properties and properties that have been in the MLS for a long time, expired properties, to find properties that appear to have good value. That is to say, we can buy them below the current market, enough below the current market value so that we can spend our money, we can borrow the money to fix them up and sell them. And our goal is, of course, to upgrade and modernize, to make them to make them, for all intents and purposes, new, um, and to price them fairly and sell them at or below the market where they exist right now. Okay, in order to do that, one of the things we discovered was we could use our own money and do maybe one or two rehabs a year. And then we run out of money because, we have a limited amount. And so we can do, our company can do one or two, or well, this year we're doing 3 rehabs all at the same time. But it means that we're really pretty much tapped out. We can't take on new projects at the moment because our money is tied up in the 3 rehab projects that are being finished right now. Now, of course, they were supposed to have been finished by April 1st, but we'll be lucky to have them finished by May 1st. And May 1st we'll be back in business. But for the time being, we're on the shelf. Part of the reason why we want to collaborate with others is so we can keep the ball rolling. We can put our money with your money, and we can keep doing these rehabs because there are plenty of properties out there to be rehabbed of good value that we can fix up and return to the market. Now, I referred earlier to the legislation that kind of changed the rules about how people can work together in investment real estate. And the big piece of legislation that passed under the Obama administration was what's called the Jobs Act, which is Jumpstart Our Business Startups Act. And the big thing that the Jobs Act did, it used to be that if you put together a group of people who were not close friends or relatives, a private offering, you'd have to qualify everybody as what's called an accredited investor, which meant that you had to have $1 million in net worth, not including your house, and you had to have $250,000 in the bank in order to be allowed to join with other people, strangers, and invest in real estate. As a commercial venture, you could do whatever you wanted as an individual, but to join with others. The Jobs Act made it possible for people who did not know each other, people who were not accredited investors, did not have $250,000 in the bank and $1 million in net worth, to join with other people and to put their nickels and dimes together, as it were, to invest in real estate. So what sprung up out of that is a big industry of real estate investment platforms where you can put, in some of these I've seen, you could put as little as $1,000 or $5,000 to invest in a large real estate project and realize a return when that project is either rented or sold. And so the Jobs Act made it possible for the rest of us, for people like you and me, to come together to find a project and to put our smaller money together to do those projects and to make money. Well, what we started with is what I call the golden circle of investors. We have people who have said, find something, I want to invest with you. So we have a list, kind of an informal list of people who have said that they want to invest in projects. And we periodically, when we come up with something that looks good, we circulate it to that group of investors. Those are what I'm calling the outside investors. We have inside investors, the people who work with us, our associates, Mallory, Melanie, Elizabeth, all of us. When we find a project, it could be that they will want to participate in as investors in those projects. And so we invite the people, our associates who are insiders as well, to invest in our projects. So it's our plan this year to expand our investor base to come up to the full limit of the Jobs Act uh, provision. The Jobs Act provision says that investors like us who are not accredited investors, smaller investors, can come together and can put together an amount up to $1 million to invest in a single transaction, in a single deal, if they choose to do that. So what we'd like to do this year is we'd like to expand, we'd like to put a fund together to expand to raise $1 million in pledges from investors like you, investors like us, to do up to $1 million in deals. Now we can do one large deal or 5 smaller deals or 17 much smaller deals. We can put a project together of any size, as long as for any particular offering like this, we raise up to a limit of $1 million. So that's our goal. We want to create what we're calling a partnership venture fund to raise that money. And we'd like to do it before the end of the year. And maybe start a new and a larger project by the end of the year. Now we're going to be investing, our own money and our circle of investors between now and then. But our goal is to put this fund together and to raise pledges up to $1 million for this fund, so that at the start of 2019, we'll have a large project that we can get off the ground. We have an example of smaller projects that we thought might be interesting, just to show you how an investment deal like this would work. Melanie is going to talk about 2 investment deals that we found through our various sources to show you how we apply our algorithm to a deal to determine how much we should invest and how we should put the project together. So why don't I turn it over to you, Melanie? Why don't you talk about Phoebe Drive?
Hello, so I'm Melanie again. I am head of the acquisitions area in CSP. So we found these 2 deals through different channels. And this one is in Washington. So Phoebe.
You should say the state of Washington.
The state of Washington, yeah. So 1607 South Phoebe Drive. This is a nice one. It's about I would say a conservative 70 grand for the rehab. The ROI is about 54%, which is really great. ARV looks great. We actually might get this one, which is wonderful. So if you look through the equity that it would require, would be about $88,000.
You'll see at the top ARV. Now we have experienced investors and we may have less experienced investors. We use a lot of terminology that we want to define for those who are less experienced. The ARV is what we call the after rehab value. And the after rehab value is the most important number because it is what we expect we will be able to sell this property for after it's fixed up. And the way we determine that is to look at the location of the property, to do a market analysis around the property, to determine what similar houses of the same of similar size and construction are selling for in that area, have sold for in the last 6 months. The gross investor price is, when we say we look for discounted properties, we determine how much we could offer based on the after rehab value, and our number is 70% of after rehab value. And the estimated repairs, as Melanie said, is around $70,000. Now, we don't know that for absolute because this property is in Washington State and we haven't been there. But we've seen pictures inside, and frequently in investment real estate, you have to offer before you see it. If it's a good deal, people are going to bid on it without seeing it. We try always to have a clause that says an inspection contingency that allows us, if after we go inside and determine that it's way over $70,000, to allow us to get out of the contract. But that's typically how we look at a property. And the funding that Melanie talked about is we typically use a hard money scenario where we would have to go and borrow short-term money, which is very expensive money, to fix it up. The maximum loan amount typically that a hard money lender will loan is 65% of the after rehab value. So in the case of this property, we could probably borrow $352,000 to acquire this and to fix it up. That means we have to come up with approximately 25% of our own to complete the funding of this project. So the total funding would be $440,000 about. So then we'd buy it. We'd buy it for what? The maximum allowable offer. That's what the MAO is, the maximum allowable offer. So we would offer $309,358. And as Melanie said, we might actually get this one. So if we get it, it'll be for around that price. We should be able to borrow $352,000. We'd have to come up with equity of $88,000. Now, where do you get the equity? Where we would get the equity is either through our own resources, through investors like you, or through our Partnership Ventures Fund, once that fund is put together. So we would acquire it. We would, the loan fees, as I said, the hard money is expensive money, so the loan fees would be about $17,000. We estimate 5%. That's high, but we want to be conservative. And again, the repairs are $70,000, and we estimate a 6-month holding period at 1.5% per month. That's taxes, utilities, insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So the total expense for this project would be about $428,000. Now we've raised $440,000, so we have kind of a cushion of $11,000 in this deal, $11,600. If we were to sell it as we projected for $541,940, we allow, let's see, where are we? We take our $11,652 surplus and put it back in, and we will have total proceeds of $553,000 if we sell it for what we projected. The sales expense, we use 12% because that includes not just real estate commission, usually transfer tax and all of the other, recording, recordation, all of those fees that go with a sale. in a transfer. So under this scenario, the net proceeds would be about $48,000 over expenses, which gives us a 54.8% return on our initial equity of 88,000. So that's the scenario that we would use for this property. Uh, why don't we go on to the next one? Melanie, can you pick it up on the next one? We don't need to go into much detail since we covered what, our shorthand. You can just maybe go to the bottom lines of each of the sections.
You want me to zoom in?
Yeah, go to the other slide, the ones that are coming up.
Wait,
That's good.
the analysis isn't showing?
I can see it, yes.
Is that what you want me to show right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Melanie, are you going to pick it up or should I get in?
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about where you found this one?
So leads can come from any place. I have a huge cauldron of them from investors and agents all over the country, from different websites, auctions. I go everywhere. I try to just dig to find the gems because it's a saturation out there of properties that are pumped up to be, they cost too much and the return is like very low. So you have to sort through quite a few of them. So 2608 Monroe Street Northeast. So this one is ARV, which is the after retail value is 617,000. So we would probably offer 360 for this one, and if you look down the bottom, the return on investment is going to be 57%. So the equity that we would have to put in would be about 100 grand, and we would get back 57%, which is a good ROI, which is profitable.
So we've given you examples of properties that are actually on the market that we've actually bid on, that one's in Washington State, one's in Washington, D.C., but we're looking in several markets. Last year, we did a property in Charlotte, North Carolina. We found a good deal in Charlotte, North Carolina. We had a local contact there, and we raised the funding and came up with the equity from here to invest in the project there. And our model, we feel that our model is strong enough that we can take it really anywhere. But we're looking right now in Atlanta, we're looking in Charlotte, we're looking in the Seattle, King County area, we're looking in DC, Baltimore, Prince George's County. And
yep.
yeah.
So sorry to interrupt, but
no,
for let's just use this deal as an example. Are you looking for several investors on this? Or are you looking for one investor, or is this part of the fund?
The fund is not put together yet. For this deal, we would be looking for one or two investors to partner with us to go in on it.
All right. So my next question is that the equity portion, or are you going after hard money?
We will borrow our at least under our current model, we will borrow the hard money. That's Chestnut Street Partners. Will borrow the hard money if we can raise the equity. If we can get investors to come up with the equity, and then we'll split at the end.
So what's the max investors that you would have on this deal as the example?
It depends on what people are able to do. In our experience, we've worked mostly with smaller investors, with people who have less than 50,000. If we could find two investors with 50,000, we would do that.
All right. So,
a smaller number is better
of course.
for a single house like this.
Right. So if you're using two outside investors, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around this, right?
Yep.
Are you splitting it a third because Chestnut Street Partners gets a third and then the two investors get a third?
Under that scenario, we would, yes. In other words, we would borrow the money, the
Yep.
two investors, and the two investors would come up with the equity portion, and it'd be a third, a third, a third, a third.
All right. So using this scenario again, if I was the only investor, give you $100,000, we would be 50-50 partners on the net proceeds.
50-50 partners on the net proceeds.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
Lou, you might want to pull your microphone a little forward. It's a little hard to hear again. Sorry.
Nobody can see me anyway, so. Okay.
There we go.
Melanie, what are you, so what's the bottom line on this one? We're talking about $57,000 in profit.
For Monroe Street? Yeah.
Yeah, and the return is 57% on the equity.
Which is wonderful. It's very generous. Like usually most people would go for at least the most well, least amount would be about 35,000. So 57 is wonderful.
Mm.
You really have to, work with finding a property that is below, has a high ARV, but it's not priced too high, because you have to have a wide spread in order to make money.
Yes.
So that's why you have to find the good leads.
So, as a matter of fact, Melanie writes at least 25 offers a week on properties, because we have to get the properties at enough of a discount in order to be able to afford to buy them, fix them up, and return them to the market at a price at which they'll sell quickly. So that's our goal. So we end up sifting through quite a lot, 100 offers a month at least, to come up with the 2 or 3 deals that make sense every month.
So when you do it, I don't mean to monopolize the time, but it seems like I may be
Go ahead.
one of the only people outside the Chestnut Street Partners on the phone, so I'll take some time.
Yeah, please do.
So for this example, I'll just use this because it's in front of me, right? How involved are the partners? Are you doing weekly follow through, biweekly follow through? And I mean, like, talking through the progress of this rehab.
Well, we're used to so far we're used to having partners who know not a lot about rehab. So we pretty much are in a role of providing them with information, educating them on the project. We do on a regular basis, we do what we call hard hat tours for our investors to look at the progress. For investors who are out of the area, we do online tours. So we have online progress reports, because our goal, we want to make money for sure, but our goal is to create a model that's a true collaborative model, that we can put together groups of people to do things that we probably could not do individually. So we want to bring people along, and we want people on this deal, once the payoff comes, to turn around and invest with us again. So we want to make sure that they understand the process and they're comfortable with it at every step.
So I'm just curious too, right? Something like this, right? It doesn't look like it's like a full gut rehab, because it's only about 70,000, right?
Right.
Why are you saying 6 months? Because the market seems to be pretty hot in that area, specifically in the DC market.
Being conservative.
Yeah.
I'm sorry? That's just being conservative?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So if we show a 57% return, it's based on these conservative assumptions. Now, I must say that there are projects that we undertook that we expected to be done in 3 months, and it took 6 months because
Yeah.
Yes, that's the nature of the game, right?
Right.
But the selling isn't the issue, right, Lou? It's the work that has to be done that can have delays, right?
The work and the approvals, the
Mhm.
permits, the inspections.
And,
One of
and
our
I,
projects, we sold it right away, but then the buyers had an inspection, and the inspection came up with a number of things that we did not undertake to do in the rehab that the buyer wanted done that we had to do. We had to go back and do those things. Even though we had a contract in hand,
mhm.
So we had to do those things in order to consummate the sale.
and I assume that you have good relationship with contractors, general contractors, laborers, etc.
Yes, but
In the DC market, right? Not in
yeah,
other parts of the country.
well, we not in other parts of the country. That's an issue. Where we go to other parts of the country, we try to have a relationship with somebody who has a relationship with contractors. We our plan is to work through the REIAs, through the real estate investment associations, the local REIAs, and all of the major markets have loads and loads of REIAs. In DC, in the DC area, there are probably 24 and maybe more very active REIAs who they're pretty generous in sharing information about contractors and stuff like that. So I think we would plan to work through the REIAs to identify contractors. We started out being really adversarial with contractors, saying we're going to bid everything, we're going to, and we're gonna be the GC, and we're gonna put all the subs together. And we decided that that's not a good model. A good model is to find somebody you can trust, even if you have to pay a little more, and let them have a stake. That is to say that they can benefit if the job gets done earlier, and let them take the heat with the subs, pretty much. So that's more how we operate now. We tried to operate the other way, and it was difficult. We had to actually fire some people, and it was hard to do.
Yeah, but we're currently, I mean, I understand that we do already have some relationships with contractors, but we're currently bringing on new general contractors who have like a serious interest in doing the whole rehab project, not just this part or that part, but they have experience with everything. So we're in that process, and we found already one person who's a great candidate. So we're developing more relationships in this area, and we're going to be expanding that.
We're also exploring it's almost unheard of, but giving the contractor a piece of the profit sharing with the contractor as part of the deal.
Have you thought about just bringing a contractor on full time?
We're not busy enough to do that right now, but that's certainly something we'll consider doing in the future. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, giving the contractor a piece of the action is actually a great idea, because you get them autonomy, so they're more invested in the entire deal.
I'm turning it around faster, and the quality of the work.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And there's one candidate who I think that has a lot of potential for becoming a potential full-time GC, and he has the interest as well.
Okay.
All right. So a couple of the next slides already were discussed, but we will proceed.
Okay.
Let me go back. There we go. All right, back to you, Lou.
Okay. Investing with us is easy. You know, we're, as I said, we're trying to build a collaborative model, and we do that by sitting down with people initially, showing them our wares. We have a couple of investors that I've met with on various projects that we bid on, but subsequently didn't get. But our model usually is to start by sitting down with them, and we describe our acquisition and rehab business model and talk about the ways they can participate with us. Typically, we offer either a private lender scenario where they get a deed of trust on the project and they loan us money on a fixed interest rate. These would be investors that did not. These would be passive investors and not active investors. We offer them that scenario, or we offer them the equity scenario if they choose. Now, the equity scenario is has more risk but has more upside because it's more there's a participation in the profit. It's got more risk because if it turns out we don't make any money, then we don't make it, none of us makes any money. Um, the equity investors are the people who put their resources at risk. So we offer them the option to come in if that's the model for this particular project. They they can come in as an equity investor or as a private lender and loan us money at 12% over the tenure of the project.
Mhm.
So that's how we start. We then, if they're interested in participating, if they're ready to invest, we'll talk about the details of our offer. We'll go over how we determine the ARV, the after rehab value. We'll share the comparable sales information so that everybody is comfortable with our scenario that we put together and our projections for expenses and returns. As we just went over the analysis, we'll walk them through the analysis with the specific information on the project they're interested in investing in. Due diligence, we want to make sure that they understand that they're protected. Um, if they're if they're a private lender, they're protected by a deed of trust, probably um, a second trust, because more than likely if we use hard money, the hard money lender will have a first trust. But the private money lender, if there's only one, well, there could be more than one, but we'll have a second trust and will be named as an insured on our builder's risk insurance in case anything happens to the property before it's completed. The equity investors, as I said, will be sharing the risk with us, but they'll be named also on the insurance if something happens to the property before it's finished. Online progress reporting. As I said, for investors who are here, if they're active investors, that is to say equity investors, we will have hard hat tours for them periodically. And for those who are remote or who prefer, we'll have online progress, visual progress, online tours and progress reports as we go along. We're thinking that the progress reports should be scheduled at the point of rehab draws. When a contractor is working on a project, they go so far and then they have their work inspected and they request they request money to pay for that. That's called a draw. At each draw, and most of our projects have 3 to 5 draws. So we're talking about progress reporting at each of those draw intervals. After settlement, we do a final accounting and we share it with everybody. There are a lot of hidden costs in doing this: transfer taxes and fees and utilities and all kinds of things that go into the calculation of the profit. Um, and we will do a final readout so that everybody can see what money was expended along the way, what money was taken in, and we determine the proceeds, the net proceeds, and we make the distribution, the final distribution, to our investors. First to the investors and then to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are, as I explained, as soon as the Jobs Act passed, there were the slew of platforms that came out that offered people an opportunity to invest in commercial projects, in large residential projects, in apartment buildings, and all that. We have a slightly different idea for how we want to do business. We want to keep our price of entry low so that even the most modest of us will be able to participate if we choose on some level. We're going to give you the opportunity to select a project that you will participate in, and you'll have the choice of whether you're going to be a debt or equity participant. That is to say, whether you're going to loan us money with a fixed interest rate, secured money, secured by the property, or whether you're going to be an equity participant and share in the profit. When we do put our fund together, we want to use what's called just-in-time funding, so that, as an example, if you pledge to come up with $25,000, we're not going to take your $25,000 and put it in the fund. We're going to charge you a subscription fee initially to allow you to put you in the fund and to validate your pledge. And your pledge will not be called upon until you select a project that you want to invest in. And then your money will be invested in when it's due for that project. So it's just in time funding. So the money is not sitting idle. You hold on to your money until we're ready to go. Mm-hmm. And as I explained, we also have online project reporting. For most of the other platforms, you'll get maybe an annual report if you're lucky, and you will not see the progress as the project is going. You'll get your return at the end. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in summary, our group is basically 3 companies: Chestnut Street Partners, the investment company; Partnership Ventures, this is the actual rehab company; and Washington, D.C. Homes, which is the brokerage that can broker either the property that we develop or property that sellers want to list in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Our business model is simply to buy low and to add value and to sell at a reasonable price, to sell below market if possible, at or below market, so that property sells quickly and turns over. Our goal is to raise money for what we're calling a partnership venture fund so that we can do larger we can all participate in larger deals. In some cases, I mean, one of the examples that occurred to me is that I've seen opportunities to buy a whole block of houses in Baltimore. Baltimore is changing fast, and there are not going to be these investment opportunities in Baltimore for very long. I remember when DC was like that. We can get into Baltimore in a larger scale, and if we have larger fund that consists of a number of investors, so we can pool our money to do those deals.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. So 2 questions. What's the structure of the fund? What will the partnership venture fund, what is that going to be?
We have a lawyer on standby who's actually going to structure it for us properly. The Jobs Act made the regulations minimal, but there are still regulations for how it needs to be constituted and where the money needs to rest and all that, and have not actually crossed that bridge yet. We have an attorney that we plan to put on retainer sometime this summer, and we plan to initiate the fund, and we'll have more detail about the structure of the fund after it's been put together legally. Right now, It's just the concept.
Okay.
But we hope to actually be in business by the end of the year.
Okay. And how about your three companies? What are those? Are those LLCs? What are they?
The Chestnut Street Partners is a sub-S corporation. And it is primarily me and my family, my wife and my daughter are on the board. I'm hoping to be able to grow the company so that we can add other directors and other people to it. But right now, that's the scope of it. Partnership Ventures is an LLC, and we formed Partnership Ventures so that we could use Partnership Ventures as a way to put together partnerships, do deals. Once we have the fund in place, Partnership Ventures will actually be the developer, so to speak, of those deals. Right now, it is an LLC, and it basically is inactive. It hasn't really been activated, but it's put together and it's ready to go. So.
Okay.
And Washington D.C. Homes is an LLC, and it's a brokerage. And I'm the principal broker for all of our business in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia.
Okay.
Now, Chestnut Street Partners, which is the investment part of the company, is approved to do business in North Carolina, in Virginia, in Maryland, and in DC right now. But we're ready to be certified to do business other places if the opportunity arises. So that's our presentation.
Yeah, and I feel like it might be worth mentioning that the brokerage is also going to be expanding over the next year. We're endeavoring to have many more agents come onto the team. So we're going to have access to a lot more leads that will give us really high quality deals, is what we're thinking. We're going in that direction.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We are planning to recruit agents who are interested in the investment real estate model. and we will train those real estate agents to find prospective deals. As it is now, Melanie goes out and beats the bushes, but we usually get deals that have been already marked up. They've been found by other people, and they're being sold to investors like us, usually at a markup. And as I said, our goal is to acquire at a discount so that we can put these properties back on the market at or below market. So we're looking to develop original leads on our own, and we're going to work with agents. We're going to train agents to discover leads in our market areas. Great. Okay.
Thank you for joining us, Imani.
Thanks for having me. This has been interesting. Definitely food for thought, and there's keep me on your list for sure.
Great.
And you have my contact information, so let's definitely stay in touch.
Great.
Nice to meet you.
All right. Likewise. Thank you.
And just FYI, and for the recording, we are going to be having a meetup next month with a crowdfunding platform. They're headquartered in Pittsburgh, but they're a really up and coming platform called Small Change. And it's going to be in person in DC, but we'll also have the webinar feature if you're curious and want to join in on that. So that's going to be Tuesday, May 29th at 7 p.m. So our meetup page, so you can look into that if you're interested.
Thank you all. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mallory. And we'll see you next time.
Perfect.
Great.
Take care. Good night.